Hello, welcome to the next painting lesson. And you can see today's picture is there. It is a pond with some trees, there's water, there's sky. And this one has a reflection, so you can see that there's the trees and then there's the reflection of the trees in the water. And that is what we're going to be working on today, is a reflection. In some of the different paintings we have been doing, there have been different types of composition. Particularly, you might remember a path that leads our eye, and part of the reason why the path can help to lead our eye is that maybe the path is either lighter or darker than what's around it, and then it looks like it's going into the distance, and so our eye also goes into the distance. So composition is how things are put together, and there's different ways to draw our eye into the scene. I think another one that I probably talked about was having something that goes around an area so that our eye is kept in. I don't remember if I talked about that. But that's another way to keep our eye inside of the space of the picture. So one way is having a road or a pathway that leads us into the distance. One way is having something that's surrounding whatever it is we want our eyes to look at. And in today's, it's going to be a reflection which has the trees on the top and the reflected trees in the water. There's different ways that you can create a reflection, and the thing that draws our eyes about a reflection is that we look at the top and the bottom, or else if it's a left and right reflection, right, then we look at left and right. Like say if there was a piece of glass over here from a window and it's reflecting, maybe somebody is looking into a window and then the sun is shining just right, and then you see a reflection of that person in the window, so it looks like the person is looking back at themselves. I don't know if you have seen a picture like that before, but so anyway, you can have a reflection that is top and bottom, or you can have a type of reflection that's left and right. But what it does is it tends to make our eye go back and forth between the two parts, and we go, oh, that's really interesting, and so it keeps our attention in the picture a little bit more. Okay, and you'll also notice something else is going on over here on this side. Now, if you have a reflection and the center part of the reflection creates a line that just goes all the way across from left to right, or all the way across from top to bottom, then it might accidentally make the viewer's eye go shoop, and out I go, and I'm leaving the picture. Bye bye, I'm done. But if you block off at least some part of whatever that center line is for the reflection with something else, then it also tends to help keep our eye in the picture a bit more. So we break it up, and I know that this is a pretty solid line here, but in the end I am going to break up that line right about here too, which you can see in the photograph. But for the composition sketch, I just simplified it. That way you can see what's going on. Sky, trees, here's that little piece of grass, the reflected trees, the other part of the water. And notice that we don't think about this too much, but the water is not just reflecting trees, it's reflecting the sky. Okay. So if you see that white, blue, that is the cloud. Those are the clouds that are up in the sky. And the reason also that we can see it more clearly is because we don't have big waves. You remember painting the ocean where it had big waves and it looks kind of bluish, but you don't it's not totally just a reflection of the sky because it's all broken up by the waves. But here it's still calm water, so you get more of a defined edge for the reflection. Otherwise, if the ocean was totally still, you would have seen a reflection of the rock in the ocean. But that doesn't happen, right? The ocean doesn't stay still. Okay, so let's go ahead and get into this one. I'm going to start by putting this composition sketch on the painting surface, and then we'll get into some color mixing and the application of the color. Okay, so I just created a brown out of all three colors here to add the sketch in part. And I'll make sure that I'm looking at my sketch. I'm putting it over on the side. You can see it in the other camera there. So I can see where it's going to be. Okay, so starting with where the piece of grass is going to go across. Notice that it's a little higher than the middle. Another thing about composition is a lot of times it's more interesting if you put your horizon line, or where the sky and ground meet, either more up or more down rather than right in the middle. This one I think you could do right in the middle and it would work in this composition too. But I am going to go with what I decided over here when I took this photograph, to put that area here where the sky and ground are meeting. In other words, that piece of grass, and going into the distance, I put it a little higher than the middle. Okay, so going across, I have a big piece of grass coming towards us. Notice that it gets bigger and bigger as it's coming towards us. I would have to be standing on the grass unless I'm in a boat, right? If I'm in a boat, then I don't need to see any land over here. And actually it comes pretty far over. I'm going to extend it over even more than I had in the sketch here. Okay, now it is a little tricky to see, but this area up here, there's a tree that's in the foreground, a tree that's close to where I would be standing, that is casting a shadow here on this part of the grass. So just in case you're wondering, why is that part of the grass dark? Oh, this is a shadow from the tree that's right here. So I'm going to add that part of the tree. And when I put in the color, I will separate the color a bit from the color I use in the background. That way we can actually see it better. Because right now it just kind of blends in, but if I push the background back with a little bit more blue and a little bit more yellow on this one, then you'll be able to see it better, and it makes more sense, like, oh, it's, this is coming forward, that's pushing back. Okay. All right, so tree and shadow, and then I have the reflection. One thing to pay attention to with the reflection is whatever is on the top, I want the bottom to match. So if this goes like this, then that has to match the angle, whatever angle I choose. On the top here, it has to match on the bottom, so it has to flip. Top, flip down. Okay, and I actually extended that over a little bit more than I was going to. So I think I will actually fix that. This is not exactly where I want it to go. So I'm going to try that again. There, take some of that off. Okay, move it. I'm having it back here. Back here. There we go. That's more where I want it. Yes. Okay. Better. Okay, but notice that if I change the top, I need to change the bottom and make it match up. Okay, then I have a tree here. I need to match it. Here's that angle. Here's this one. Right, match, match. Over, over, over as far as that part is. And it will touch the grass area right about where that one is. Now you might notice in the reflection how this tree here, that reflection does not quite match up. That's because that tree is pushed back a little bit farther and there's more space of grass in between, and therefore it's not, yeah. That's part of the reason. And another part of the reason is because the water is moving a little bit more on that section right here. So it breaks it up a bit more. Okay, but I will put it in, and I'm actually going to try to match it a little bit more because it will make sense. Okay, and then there are some trees way back here. And then you're thinking, what? It's not reflected in the water. Oh, it's pushed too far back. It's not close enough to the water. And therefore, we don't see the reflection. Oh, interesting, right? Okay, here it is. The sketch in portion is not too difficult. Now, let's get to our mixing. We've got our color chart here again, and we are looking to see what kinds of colors we've got. Mainly, we've got blue and green. We notice that the grass is a very nice, vibrant, bright yellow-green. So I won't dull that out very much, if at all. I'm going to keep it nice and vibrant. Nice, vibrant green. Okay, I've got the shadow, the shadow on the grass in the foreground. Notice how it looks more bluish. Okay, and then the tree that is in the foreground, I know it doesn't look very bright, right? It's going to be darker, I think, than it's going to be darker than this one, but I don't want it to be, I still want it to stand forward and not be too blue, so I won't go down to this so much. I think I'll stick more with something like this. And then the trees that are in the background, instead of having them too bright, I will put a little bit more blue into them as I'm going back. But notice how the top part of the tree is going to have more light on it, and so the top part of the tree, particularly this one here, looks a bit more yellow than this one. Perhaps it's a different kind of tree. I'm not sure. I don't remember. Okay, now, also interestingly, notice that the colors between the tree and the reflection are very similar. It may get a little bit more dull in the water, but it's quite similar. So I may even be able to use the same colors when I do the reflection. All right, and then of course we have our blue and white up in the sky. So besides thinking about the color, each of the colors, I'm also thinking about how light or dark it is. The sky will be nice and bright, very light, and then of course the clouds are even lighter than that. I've got white for my clouds. I will get a bit of blue. And I'm going to make a bit more than I would just for this area because I know I'm going to need it for this area too. So I think I need to grab more paint. I need more sky color than usual. That's not enough still. More. Okay. Okay, that is very light. I think that will do it. I've got I've got a number 1 there for my sky. I think that will do. Hopefully I have enough color. If I don't, I can just mix some more later because that's easy to mix. Next, I will go for some bright green. It's got lots of yellow in it. Definitely more yellow. More. And this will be, that's too dark still. Right? See how it's a lot darker than that? I don't want it to be too dark. So add a bit of white. Yeah, that's starting to look better. I think it could even use more yellow. My eye says, more yellow, please. Okay, and then thinking about how light or dark it is, it will be darker than the sky, but it's very bright. If I pick, say, a number 2, that will work. Number 3 is okay as well. So I think I will put a little more white in there to lighten that one up. And then if I don't like how it comes out, I can adjust that color. Okay, so it's definitely very light. Okay, next I've got the shadow on the grass. That's quite dark. On this shadow, I think that we're close, but I will put more yellow in it. Yeah, I think I made it maybe even too light. So a bit more blue again. Okay, I think I'm happy with that. I've got a 7, about a 7 here for how dark it is. Okay. And I think I will do a color for this tree, and then I'll get started and then mix those after I have the other colors in. Okay, so I want to make sure it's dark, but it's not too blue. So I have a bit of red. I have plenty of yellow and some blue. I want it to be green, but not really too bright. And you can see how that's a little more brown than this is. But the value is similar. Yeah, the value is very similar. Okay, yes, so I think I'll start with this, and then as we go along, we'll add more details. There will be, a few lighter areas on this tree as well, and, maybe some of the sky, but I won't put all of the details into this tree because I want it to feel more solid and maybe not have quite as many holes in there, as you can see. Okay, I am ready with my brush. Okay, I think I will start with this darker area of the tree. Oh, I'm sorry, not the darker area of the tree, the dark area of the grass. Okay, and I can go over those lines a bit more. Okay, I just switched the cameras around a bit because I thought that the one camera was having trouble focusing on the painting. So I hope that will come out a bit better. And next I'm going to add the lighter part of the grass. I'll go ahead and use that same color for the grass in the background as well, but I might make it a little bit more dull in a bit as I'm going to the background too. Okay, so adding the light areas of the grass, I can go over some of the dark areas, and if your paint is still wet, it can mix a little bit and you'll get an in-between type of green color as well. That's some light shining through, some patches of light shining through. I'm letting it kind of mix into it so it doesn't get too bright in those patches of light. Okay. Mix some of this together. We'll soften that edge. And then I'm continuing on back with the other part of the grass. So I do notice that there is a bit of shadow back here from another tree. I will add that in as well. Maybe a little bit more. I mixed it a bit much. I want to be able to see it. There. Okay. And then I have this light part of the grass farther in the distance. Okay, some of this tree is coming down over that area, so I'll let it get broken up by that tree hanging down. Okay. All right, next I'm working on the tree in the foreground. I'm going to make it this color first, but then I will change some of the color on here too. Okay, there it's coming down, hanging over part of the grass area. That also helps to break up this line going across to keep our eye from just going zoop and then we're gone out of the picture. Okay, looks like I need to tip my camera a little higher. There we go. Okay, so now it really does feel like this tree is hanging over this grassy area and making the shadow, and it makes more sense. Right now, to me, this shadow looks a little too dark, but I'm going to add the rest of the colors and then I can see what I think. And if I think, oh, it's too dark, I can always lighten that up. Oh yes, I've got some blue that I have not applied yet. Let's go for our blue sky since I've got it here. And also the water. So as I'm applying it, I'm also going to think about where the clouds are. If you wait for the blue to dry and then you add the clouds over the top of it, that also works. But I'm going to paint around the sky, the cloud areas, and then I will also add the clouds in. Yeah, you can definitely see that blue here. This is another thing that you want to match up when you're doing the clouds. The clouds are reflected as well as the trees, so I want to try to match up whatever I have down here with what's up here. Now I won't see all of this up at the top because I have less sky that I'm dealing with, but whatever I put here, I should match it here. Even if it, if I didn't match this exactly to the picture, I want this and this in my painting at least to match up. Okay, there's quite a bit of cloud in that area there. Okay, and I know that I haven't really exactly made it according to the picture, but I'm going to go with this, and maybe I want a little less cloud here. I want a little more sky. Okay, so now I match it to the picture. If my sky blue is touching here, then it has to touch that corner at the top. If it's not, then I don't. Right? If all of that is cloud, then the blue won't touch that area. But if it is touching, then it touches. Okay, it goes out from here, so I'm making it go out. Okay, and then about here, I have a piece of the cloud coming up over here. It's down under the tree, but here it will be up over the tree and touching my next tree. Okay, and I made it almost touch the top of that tree, so I will go with that. Okay, and it's about like that. All right. And then I run out of room, so I don't need to copy anymore. Okay, then I need to mix a few more colors. From this, I'm going to create a more blue version, a slightly more blue version. So if I still have that mix, I can take it and just add a little blue to it. And since I'm pushing it into the background, I can also give it that atmospheric effect of like it's being pushed into the background and make it a little bit more gray by adding a touch more white so that my darkest areas still stay in the front, because whatever is closest to us will be what has the most amount of contrast, even if the picture doesn't show it that well. So I'm making it slightly lighter and a little more blue. I think that might do it. If I don't like it, I can always change it a bit later. Okay, over here. So let's see, does it blend in too much? Or can I see it? It does kind of blend in some. Actually, I would like it to not blend in so much on that side. So I'm going to change that side. But I think it will work for these ones here. That's where I said I was going to darken it as it's going down to the water. Okay, I look to see where the dark area on that tree is. I make it like a dark area shape. Leave the top of the tree lighter. And then that will be mirrored down below. So whatever I did above, it will look that way, but just flipped, opposite. Okay, I hope that's not too complicated for your brain. If it helps, you can even turn your canvas, right? Right side up, turn it upside down, turn it right side up, and compare it, or maybe turn it sideways and see, did I get it? Oh, I need this part, right? And I can think to myself, does it look pretty similar? Okay, it doesn't have this part yet. Yeah. And extending that part. So that's a tip in case it helps for reflections, that you might even turn your canvas as you're going along to see whether you're getting the reflection to match with what's on top. Okay, and that I will make even more blue. I'm going to make that more blue than these ones to push it farther back in space. But then I was also going to change this and make the color, let's see, it needs to be lighter than this one, I think. So I'm going to see about making the color a bit lighter, but still pushing it into the distance. So I'm taking a little more yellow and blue and a bit more white. To try to separate that. Let's see. Okay, almost. I think that'll do it. Yep, that's definitely lighter. Give it a try. Yep. Okay. So that way, I know you can't really see it too well yet. But that way, for this tree here, it will separate it from this one. So I don't want it to be too much the same. And then I think I may mix this color to be a little bit darker as well. Okay, and then I want this reflection in the water. So that it will make sense. Some of the tree is behind this tree, but it's still getting reflected into the water as well. And I just don't see the top part. So then it doesn't have to match quite as much. But whatever parts I do see, I want to match them up. Okay, and I think that color is already blue enough. I can use it back here. Now, from these colors, I also need to make the lighter areas of the tree, and then I will change it. You might remember that when I was doing the bushes on the last painting, I did 1, 2, 3, where I changed it from darker to medium to lighter. And that is a good way to think about it too. So here, this is this tree up in the front. I will make a color that's lighter and more yellow. I think a little more yellow, bit of white in there. Yep, that is good. And then I will think about where the light is hitting that tree. Notice that it's hitting the tops of the trees here because it's the middle of the day, and that's why the shadow is directly underneath here as well. So because I'm really just seeing the shadow part of this tree, I'm not going to see a lot of light on it, but some edges I can use a bit of lighter color. And I know that there are some areas where the light is going to come through some of these branches a bit more. And depending on how it looks, I might even put a little bit of blue sky coming through there too. Okay, and I also want something more yellow and lighter, but not as light as the sky. For the trees in the background. Yeah, that works. Okay, I think I'm going to do all of the light part as medium first and then just put a few lighter pieces on it. So now that I've already got the dark areas in place, it's a lot easier for me to put the lighter areas in on the top and the bottom. Okay, let's see. And then since I don't want that one to blend in with it too much, I'm going to lighten it just a bit more. Yeah, there we go. Now it will stand out. Okay, and then I'm going to push that one farther back into the distance by taking this color here, and I'm making it a little bit more blue than what's up in the front. It's a little lighter, a little more blue. So see how the blue is darkening that? If I put a bit more white into it, kind of looks grayish now, but that will push it back into the distance. Almost needs to be even lighter, maybe not quite as blue. Lighter. Yep, okay. Good, and to make sure I'm covering all of the parts of my canvas, I am now going to add the clouds. Which you can tell that adding that white doesn't change it too much because the canvas is already white. But wherever I am getting to the edge of another color, then that's where it makes a difference. So it will blend a bit and soften some of those edges. And it'll cover up this area. Cover up some of those lines I made earlier. Make it not so even on the top of those trees so it doesn't look like they're flat. And trying to make sure I'm matching it up still with whatever I've got down here. Doesn't matter if the top is matching the bottom or the bottom is matching the top, right? As long as it matches. Okay. Yeah, okay, so everything is now blocked in. This still does look a bit dark to me, and that the dark areas of this tree actually look a bit too light. I'm going to start by darkening this area here because otherwise it just looks kind of muddled, like, oh, why does it not stand out? So I'm going to remix a color for that, keeping it very dark. Some yellow, some red, a bunch of yellow, some blue, and I think I won't add any white into it, and we'll just see how that goes. It'll be very dark to start off with. And that might do it. I'm making sure that I'm cleaning all the other color off of my brush, otherwise it will not get very dark. Okay. Oop, I know I still have too much of the light color on my brush. Clean, clean, clean. I'm actually using a separate brush just for the white and light blue because otherwise it's very difficult to keep that color. Oops, I'm brushing it on the wrong, okay. Let's see. Better. I'm not seeing that light color. Okay. Here we go, and the dark areas. Make them darker. Okay, so you'll notice that the trees are like lumps together right now, but as I'm going in there again with some more color, I'll add smaller details. But as long as I've got the bigger areas of the color in the right place, it will look about right. Okay, so touching it in some areas to make it darker. I really don't need any pieces of blue in there for the composition, but I think I'm going to try it anyway, and we'll see what happens. And I'm trying to keep some of those lighter areas and not go over everything. Oh, and that looks too much like just spots. I want to make it a bit more uneven, so it's not all just the same spot areas. Change brush direction and do things a little in different ways, because trees grow and their leaves don't all just go like all one direction, right? It's not just like but it was looking too much like all going that way, so I'm changing it up a bit. Okay, yeah, that's better. A little bit more dark in here. Okay, and then I will try for a bit of sky, but I'll put just a touch more blue so that it's not too bright coming through there. Let's give it a try right about maybe there. Give it an interesting shape. Yeah, okay. And then I can do a couple more, smaller or bigger, some kind of interesting shape. But not too big. Okay, yeah, and then I think that what I'll do is break this up a little bit more so it's less of, so it doesn't look quite as solid right here, but it still is branches. Thoughts. Oh, that's supposed to be cloud, right? Cloud. I have to remember that. This is cloud. Otherwise it won't blend together. Cloud. There we go. That's better. Makes it a little interesting. You don't actually need that part for it to work though. Okay, now that, yes, this still looks too dark to me. So I've got this color still. I'm going to take some of that and lighten it up with some yellow. It still needs to look like a shadow, so I don't want it to be too light, but just in the overall image it feels like just a bit too dark overall. It needs some more kind of medium areas in there so that the shadow doesn't feel quite as heavy. Now I don't need to cover all of the dark areas that I've got, but if I lighten at least part of it, then it feels like, oh, now the light can kind of come down and shine a little bit more in that shadow area as well. That's a little better. A little lighter here. Okay. Oh, and as I'm coming out to the edge of the water, a bit lighter. Not too dark. But I don't want that edge to look too straight either. Not too... Otherwise it doesn't look like grass. If it's just a flat edge. Okay. Yeah, I think that is better. Now, remember I had added some medium colors in the background here. I think we can go one lighter and make some lighter areas and use some smaller marks to add detail up in the top, or if it's a reflection, the bottom. So I want a color that is lighter, more yellow, kind of like the grass, right? But maybe just not quite as light as the grass color is. Kind of in between the grass color and that color. So a little darker. You can see it's a little darker than the grass, but it's lighter than that color on the tree. I think that will work. Let's give it a try. Oh, I need more on my brush. Can I see it? Oh, no. That means it's not quite light enough yet. Maybe I will need to make it more like the color of the grass for it to show up. Okay, if it shows up for you, then good, use it. Okay, let me try that again. Oh, now I can see it. I think you can see it too, right? Here I made a dot on it and I'm looking. Making some pieces. Okay, now, tricky. See if you can do the same thing on the bottom. Oh no! It's difficult. Yeah, well, it might be a little difficult. But you don't have to make it overly complicated. And if it doesn't match exactly, as long as the overall shape and the shadow and light area shapes match up, I think it will work. And remember, you can tip your canvas to the side or upside down if that helps to figure out what you are doing. And this tree is even more yellow. I think I'm just going to go with this grass yellow because it will, on mine, it will blend in to it. Okay, and a little bit back here in the background. The one way in the back here, I don't have to worry about matching it, so it doesn't matter exactly where I put the brush marks back there, just as long as the light part stays on the top of the tree. Okay, we are pretty close to being done. I think this one probably won't take you as long to complete as the last one. I just think I will want a couple more details on here. I'm going to look and see if I can find a couple more details and add them. And I think since we have time, I can do it while the camera is on, while the video is going. You'll notice also that there's these little pieces of the ripples in the water. I may be able to get a bit of that in as well to show you. Darkening here a bit. Part of the grass is actually reflected in that area, but there's a little bit of an edge there. And same over here too. Part of this is the reflection of the grass, which is kind of interesting. Okay, I'm going to brighten up some of the grass in the front with a bit more yellow on it. I think that will help this grass in the front to stand out more. Oops, that's green. And then I will also push this part of the grass into the background with a touch more blue. Okay, thinking almost done. This edge here looks a bit hard. I want it to be a little softer so that it doesn't draw our eye quite as much. And then I will also bring some of the dark area over to separate the parts of the grass out here. Okay, thoughts are just a few more things. Okay, just about there. I will do this. If you have color that is wet, you can drag little pieces of it across, and then notice how it looks like the ripples are happening in the water. If I do that right at the edge of where the tree is, and if I need to, I could put a little white on my brush if it's the cloud area, or a little bit of light blue on my brush, and drag it in there a bit. It will make a couple of the ripples. Okay, pretending I see those ripples that are coming that way. And a few, maybe a few right here. The ripples will always be horizontal, not diagonal, because it's not a big wave. If it's a little ripple, it will look horizontal. And you might notice I'm taking some of the tree color and bringing it down, because you can kind of see that too, right? It's like there a ripple kind of breaks up the top of the tree. There's a few pieces of grass over here, kind of right by the edge of the water. I think it will look interesting if I put a few pieces in. And I think that just needs to be a little, it just doesn't look quite 3D enough on this tree in the background, so I'm going to put a little bit more of the yellowish green. That's too close to the dark area. So not quite like that. Okay, I think we are about there. This still looks like too much of a hard edge, so I'm going to kind of break up the edge there a bit more with like the medium color so it feels more like a tree and not like a, like it's cut like sharp edge. Yeah, that's better. That's better. Okay. Yep, I think just enough ripple there. If you overdo it on the rippling, right, if it's like then it might look a little bit weird, but just a few ripples, it gives you that idea of, oh, it's water, but it's kind of peaceful. And that's it. That's going to be our demo for today.